You have opened a can of worms in your personal bedroom. Imagine this: you're telling lies, in bed with your significant other, possibly following several years spent together. In the gloomy light of the bedroom, in a setting of whole faith, one of you murmurs, even as a joke perhaps, "How about if we invited someone else in?" During that moment, the air in the room shifts. You believe it's simply a harmless fantasy, a mental game? Number. Without being aware of it, you've simply opened the Pandora's box. The urge to take a look inside is nearly overwhelming, unstoppable. However, the understanding that after releasing the material, you can, it is paralyzing to never force them back in. The biggest taboo of all is this subject: contemporary society. It is both horrifying and captivatingly alluring. Today, we will not serve as moralists or judges, but as objective analysts. Our objective is not to disapprove or condemn, but to analyze this intricate occurrence under the psychology's microscope. We'll take a look to comprehend this Pandora's box. What treasures and what demons are concealed there? Sigmund Freud even mentioned our unconscious, that ebony animation. The animalistic aspect of our minds. He contacted the ID, the pot is boiling, of gut feelings and suppressed urges that are constantly looking for a way out. Additionally, the desire for a third companion is among the most powerful and hazardous violations of things unintentionally into our structured life. We'll turn on the light in here today, gloomy space, and ruthlessly inspect all that is concealed. What you are going to learn won't air on television or featured in high-end magazines. This will occasionally be an honest, uncomfortable, but vitally important dialogue. If you're prepared to level of detail, kindly click like. Press the button on this video immediately. Additionally, if since you're new here, you're not scared of the true, please subscribe immediately as we're only beginning. Additionally, prior to start, it's crucial that I understand our geography. Kindly write in the "Tell me which city you're from." Let's observe how far this challenging but crucial. The subject has gained traction. First, the anatomy of longing. As before, three genuine emo dissect the repercussions we have to recognize the causes. Why does this even come to two people's brains? Apparently affectionate individuals? It's crucial. To comprehend the want for a third person is nearly always a sign of something, not the reason. It is an indication that there is already a fissure in the base of the relationship, despite the fact that the house appears flawless from the outside. Additionally, typically, three primary factors underlie this desire. Basic motivations. The initial and the remedy for boredom is a popular motivation. As a matter of fact, any relationship, even the most fervent one, ultimately encounters what psychologists refer to as hedonic adjustment. In short, we become accustomed to everything. The brain, which was swimming in a dopamine-rich mixture and starting oxytocin levels in the romance, ultimately becomes more relaxed. Zeal transforms into tender love, and predictability turns as a synonym for stability. Additionally, during this time, the A pair creates the appearance that their internal dynamic isn't the issue, but monotony on the outside. They begin searching for a shaking stimulation restart and clean up the system. Additionally, in this search for originality, a trial using the third person appears to be the most powerful. Maximum dose of thermonuclears they can receive. It is like to attempting to reignite a smoldering embers by applying a petrol can to them. No, the flash will be so bright. Question, but the likelihood of it burning is 99%. Everything to the floor. A dot. The issue with this motivation is that it fundamental error. The pair is attempting to resolve an internal issue, the absence of spiritual and emotional closeness with the most outward approach conceivable. The third person uniqueness will only give you a quick boost of adrenaline. However, when it diminishes, the partners will be apart from one another on the same charred ground. However, in addition to the issue of diminished passion, an entire a number of brand new, much more scary issues will have been included. The second reason is realizing a dream. Many of us have our personal treasured fantasies that we store in the most remote area of our thoughts. This is typical. It's a component of our mentality. A safe fantasy is a healthy one, a place in our minds where we can retreat to have specific feelings without hurting anybody. However, occasionally a fantasy changes from a covert haven to a persistent obsession, a fragment of incomplete business that must be conducted in the actual world. Someone who is fixated on for years, such a concept replays an ideal situation in their minds, a perfect film in which every participant are merely performers acting in accordance with their guidelines. They believe that understanding this, their fantasies will provide them with the best enjoyment, a cathartic release. However, they forget the most crucial element. Actually, not everyone is an actress. They have their own emotions, their own anticipations, their own mental traumas. Thus, when this ideal film, when it hits reality, it breaks into fragments. Rather than perfect passion and harmony, there is embarrassment, envy, disappointment. The fantasy's magic, where everything was in order, disappears, leaving only the flavor of ash and the understanding that the can never match the romanticized portrayal within their minds. The most terrifying aspect is that once fulfilled, this dream will always loses its enchantment, but the effects of the experience will always be a part of you. Lastly, the third most hazardous. The most poisonous motivation is a present to the companion. This circumstance occurs when one of the partners is not genuinely interested in unpleasant test, but consents to it since dread of failing in an endeavor to win the other, to win their approval or retain them. At first glance, it could appear to be a supreme act, selflessness and affection. Actually, it's a type of emotional mistreatment and the start of the end. Consider a conversation where one partner, sensing that the other person has become chilly or aloof, replies something like, "I understand, let's accomplish what you've always desired. I'm prepared for anything, for you." At that time, something horrible occurs. The partnership changes from an equal partnership to a exchange, a deal. One companion gives up their values, their limits, and their dignity. This sacrifice is accepted by others. This present turns into a ticking time bomb that is placed at the center of the partnership. The A person who gave their consent under duress will never pardon me. Every touch, every look from their prospective partner will be tainted by the thought of this humiliation, and the individual who agreed this sacrifice will never be respected again. For the spouse who so readily, they made a compromise. This is a route that is assured without only one exception to result in accumulated bitterness, disdain, and eventually the total breakdown of intimacy. Section 2. The delusion that paradise exists, immediate advantages. Let us put aside the take a few chances and discuss why. This concept is quite alluring. If not promise amazing feelings, nobody would even turn their gaze this way. And in fact, in the near future, in the present, and this experience can now offer multiple strong but transient advantages. It's critical to comprehend nature in order to avoid mistaking and delusion for truth. The initial and most, the clear benefit is a huge increase in chemistry. Love is ingrained in our brains, freshness and excitement. When a third component joins the established two-person system, a true neurochemical explosion, individuals happens. Three of the most popular strong chemicals are discharged into the circulation. Dopamine, the first hormone that promotes reward and anticipation. It soars due to the novelty of the circumstance. Secondly, adrenaline, the hormone that causes tension and enthusiasm generated by the perception of danger and breaching a taboo. Lastly, oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which can appear while doing so. A dot. This concoction momentarily revives the pair's sentiments from the first honeymoon time, when everything were brand new, and there at a glimpse, hearts thumped. The effect of forbidden fruit is immaculate. However, it's crucial to keep in mind that this condition is comparable to drunkenness from drugs. It is realistic but phony, and brief. When the consequences of the A's chemicals degrade, the decline will start, and the truth might prove to be far more agonizing and grayer than it was prior to the experiment. The second perspective plus, which is frequently cited by advocates of these kinds of experiments, are attaining a new degree of confidence. In theory, if both parties sincerely, I wanted this experience, free from coercion, and if they were able to freely talk about every rule, expectations, anxieties, and sharing, an event this intense might fortify their connection. They appear to leap out of an aircraft with each other, and having made it through feel like a group that has experienced water and fire. But in reality, this is a very uncommon occurrence, 1 in 1,000. Why? Due to the fact that such an result necessitates an almost superhuman degree of emotional development and complete self-assurance and self-confidence in one's partner. 99% of the time, this experiment is viewed not as a shared experience, but as a demonstration of one partner's strength allows the other to pass. Additionally, any test is already an indication of suspicion. Consequently, rather than bolstering the bond, the pair typically receives evidence of because it is delicate. Additionally, the third A fascinating perk is the chance to view your significant other in a totally distinct light. As you observe your loved one interacting with another individual, how they show a fresh, surprising aspect of oneself, it may cause familiar create a spark and patterns. Seeing the responses of your companion, their excitement may have greater force. Stimuli as opposed to direct physical contact itself. The psychology of voyeurism is as follows. It permits you to briefly leave the house of the participant's position and turn into a viewer, drawing a unique type of enjoyment of it. However, there is also drawback. This fresh, striking picture of your relationship that you witnessed in a severe circumstances could end up being so enticing compared to their typical daily image will begin to appear uninteresting and dull. The possibility of getting addicted to this excitement, continuously looking for it while disregarding the peace and intense closeness that lasted for years. It's similar to looking for the same enjoyment of a silent artus movie after viewing a popular film with unique impacts. It is nearly impossible. The Journey to Hell, Part 3. 4. Action is delayed. If the short-term benefits, like a brilliant burst of fireworks, and their long-term effects are similar to your delayed action thoughts. Personally, so in the base of your union. They might not explode right away. Occasionally, months or even years go by before their devastating force totally materializes, but they'll leave off with nearly complete assurance. Let's examine the four primary ones. Don't mind. The first is attention inequality. Both mathematically and psychologically, triangles are quite unstable. Figure. In a three-person partnership, it is nearly impossible to keep up. Equilibrium. In every single instance, one person will get a little bit more passion, love, or attention. The majority of frequently, a visitor becomes the focal point of due to the fact that they are new, intriguing, and both hosts make an effort to make an impression on them. However, it also occurs that the visitor makes it apparent that they prefer. At that moment, one of the partners dot. Even if the second partner was the person who started it all, is immediately shut out of the common field. They take on the role of third wheel in their personal sleeping quarters. The sensation of humiliation, jealousy, and desertion. What they go through in that moment is the potential to contaminate the entire future connection. This is recognized by the brain moment as treachery. Furthermore, it doesn't matter that all of this occurred by consent from both parties. Our innate impulses in charge of territory and attachment lack comprehension of the idea of modern opinions. When they see danger, they sound the alarm. The second dot mind is the ghost within the bedroom. Assume the experiment is finished, the visitor has departed, and you are once again by myself. However, in practice, you will never again be alone yourself. The picture of the a third party will always be a part of in your thoughts, in your bed, and in your fantasies. You'll unavoidably be on a at the subconscious level. Begin comparing. The spouse will question whether her husband was kinder to the visitor than to her. The husband is going to contrast his spouse's lack of restraint in the actions of the girl who was invited. This ghost turns into an ideal level to which a true partner can never try to outcompete them. Why? Due to the fact that the visitor was a transient, joyous occurrence, free from regular responsibilities, disputes, and monetary issues. Contrasting your this ghost's long-term companion is similar to contrasting a typical family meal to a Michelin-starred restaurant's tasting menu eatery. The comparison's outcome is preset, and it's going to be detrimental to the long-term partnership. Chipping slowly destroying your partner's sense of self-worth and your personal dot. This is where we have to delve into the thoughts of the great Carl Jung, a psychologist who first the shadow archetype idea. The everything we suppress is a shadow, ourselves, our innermost fears, wants, complexes as well. Additionally, this third individual in it's not just a person in the story. They turn into an ideal screen that both partners cast their shadow. A man who believes his wife is too proper in private. His desire for vice is projected onto the visitor. A lady without her husband's. The ideal is projected via attention, lover upon the visitor. This third party turns into the tangible representation of everything they don't have in one another, and this shadow and ghost remain with them, ruining their genuine intimacy for all time. The destruction is the third dot mind of exclusivity. This is possibly the most substantial and permanent risk. At the center of any meaningful partnership, whether it's a long-term relationship or marriage, there is an implicit understanding of exclusivity. Your private area is a holy location, a haven where only both of you have access to it. It's an area where you might be totally exposed without worrying about criticism. Because to this exclusivity, the intimacy dots are a special kind of bond. By inviting a third party, you willingly destroy this holiness. You accept the give the key to your haven to a unfamiliar. Your private area stops. Be exclusive. It turns into a public road. Additionally, even if it was only a precedent has been established once, the boundary has been removed. Following this experience, the pair's identity alters irrevocably. Unconsciously, they both comprehend. What used to belong only is now shared with another person. And to bring back that sense of something special, unbreakable bonds are nearly impossible to break. It is comparable to shattering a family heirloom. The parts can be reassembled with glue. However, the fissures will never go away. It is for this type of brutal yet truthful analysis that people arrive at this channel. We don't offer straightforward guidance. We address the core of the issue. If you've used this approach, been seeking, this is the ideal. Take a moment to sign up and join our community of thinkers. Lastly, keep in mind, enraged jealousy is number 4. Very frequently, couples entering such an make a deal experiment, and don't be envious. They persuade themselves they are above this rudimentary perception that there, because trust is so powerful, envy is not a danger. This is really risky. Illusion. At the time of the incident itself, influenced by in addition to excitement and novelty, jealousy may not manifest in fact. The brain is also eager to examine any dangers. However, it awakens a week or the following day. Afterward, when the chemical thunderstorm in your head goes away, leaving you by yourself, with your mind, old evolutionary processes that lead to pair bonding start. The brain starts to repeat specifics, looking for hidden significance in looks and physical contact. Perhaps she enjoyed more of him. Perhaps he will be considering her right now. This jealousy behaves slowly, behaving poisonously. It erodes confidence and creates mistrust and gives you a sense of danger when none had previously existed. Additionally, though the frightening thing is that you provided this envy is a valid reason to exist. Section 4. When one is for and the other opposes the route to cat's DR, or pack. We've been thinking about a circumstance in which both partners, however, for various reasons, have arrived to a consensus, but there is a situation that is far more harmful and poisonous. This is the circumstance in which one spouse is the enthusiastic creator of the concept and the other is vehemently opposed to it. This is an unfair game that results in a assured catastrophe. Let's determine what to do if your significant other continues to promote this notion. Additionally, it is not acceptable. It's crucial to recognize that the fantasy is not a criminal activity. However, their tenacity, their pressure, their refusal to listen. No, this isn't about you anymore. Sexual orientation. It is an indication of deep disregard for your individual boundaries, your emotions, and your emotional security. Healthy connections are formed on the basis of enthusiastic agreement. Thus, both partners say yes with delight and without hesitation. If you say no or I'm not sure, and the other keeps pushing, convince or influence is a type of psychological mistreatment. A companion who, if you love me, you'll consent to. In fact, this is conveying a totally distinct message. I'm more interested in more significant than your emotions. They are putting their transient interest above your tranquility and the dependability of your union. Such tenacity is disturbing. Bell that indicates significant issues with empathy and respect have grown in the connection, and the trial with a third party is only the beginning. A dot of iceberg. Imagine now that you break under this pressure and consent to your will. What will be the repercussions? They are completely predictable and utterly devastating. Initially, you act in a way that betrays oneself. You leave against your principles and values. It's a devastating blow to your respect for oneself. You cease to show respect for, you should be ashamed of your vulnerability. Additionally, this sensation will follow you around for a very long time. Time. Second, animosity develops in your heart. A profound, all-consuming animosity towards the spouse who made you endure this humiliation. This animosity will act as a filter. This allows you to see their entire future activities. It will appear in a passive hostility, in icy disinterest, in an absence of a desire for closeness. You cannot forgive them for this at all, since the one who is closest to you disregarded your request for protection and used you to appease their whim. This experience will undoubtedly result in the buildup of a critical mass, that anger that will eventually explode your partnership. A dot. So, what is the only appropriate answer in such a circumstance? It is calm, firm, and not negotiable. And it's here, very crucial to create your appropriately refusing so that it doesn't seem like an act, but like an allegation of preserving your partnership. You don't have to yell. How could you possibly propose something like that? Alternatively, you can declare, I cherish the intimacy and I love you we have in common. That's why I will never consent to giving it to anyone. Otherwise, our private area is the most we have a valuable possession that belongs to us. By itself, this is not acceptable to me. Bargaining. Such a reaction changes the shift your attention from blaming the spouse to defending a common ideal. You're not denying them. You're keeping us safe. If the spouse still insists after, this indicates that they don't appreciate what you're attempting to defend. Then you confront another, more severe query. Does this partnership have a future if your core principles are so not aligned? In conclusion, prior to opening, consider whether you can ever close this door. We've come a long way and challenging journey together. We looked even the most obscure nooks and crannies of the psychology of desire, examined the reasons, looked at the short-term delusions, and brutally revealed all the delayed action considers this to be dangerous, experiments with plants at the base of a connection. We are presently standing at the most crucial query. So, what is the conclusion? Is this encounter and total evil? Number. In the field of psychology, as in nothing in life is absolute. It is neither negative nor positive. It's a decision. However, it is the type of decision that follows your relationship, and your life will never, ever be the same. The point of no return is what it is. Let's honestly be tough. The prohibited door is more than just a door leading to a space with fresh feelings of sex. It's one-way gateway. It's open to you, but you can't leave it as the same individuals. You possess the sense of control. You believe that you are the situation's masters, the play's directors. However, the moment when you insert the lock's key, you are more than simply opening a door. You're allowing disruption into your meticulously planned actuality. You're inviting an unpredictable factor into your system. And after that moment, you are no longer in charge of the circumstances. You start to feel controlled by the circumstances. The old order cannot be restored. Of things that come after this, you can't ignore what you've observed. You can't unhear what you've heard. You can't remove your partner's memories in the arms of someone else. This picture turns into portion of your common past, a scar on the physical form of your closeness. Any extended connection is a closed, complex environment that has been developing for years its delicate equilibrium. It possesses its own laws, customs, and distinctive language. Including a third party in this system is comparable to implementing and entering a wildlife reserve with invasive species. This new component starts to contend for resources, for time, for attention, for sentimental vitality. It interferes with all the typical connections, alters the terrain, and contaminates the environment. And notwithstanding the fact that this invasive species declines, the ecology will always revert to its initial condition, either changes into a different form or gradually passes away from the eyes. Implications of this invasion. We claim that this experiment is expensive. However, in what currency? Has the money been paid? Here, the money isn't cash. It's trust. It's the sense of safety. It's the sanctity of recollections shared. You have to pay utilizing the same exclusivity that made your unity a stronghold, a haven from the others, the entire world. By accepting this action, you choose to make this currency less valuable. In essence, you're telling each other, what was previously exclusively ours can now be someone else's property. And after losing this essential value, it is quite challenging to create a justification for remain together. In the end, it is not a sex experiment. It concerns running into your shadow. As Carl Jung would say, that it's a custom where you freely donate a physical body and to give names to your darkest complexes, phobias, and suppressed urges. You welcome your secret, your jealousy, and your insecurity discontent with being seated at the table with you. You give them an opportunity to talk and take action. This psychological test is harsh, that 99% of couples don't work out. Not because despite their weakness or badness, because the human psychology and the underlying, simply put, long-term attachments are not made to withstand these kinds of stresses. Consequently, before you even use the phrase in jest, prior to reaching for this forbidden door, pause, and consider not the queries we discussed. Ask new, scarier ones earlier, not who will I become, but what will I gain? Following this, I won't be able to endure this, but how will my love change into after I give it to someone else? And not only can't I shut this door, however, can I live in the new altered world on the other side? The responses to these queries will be your actual decision, a decision whose repercussions will persist for the remainder of your shared lives. I've disclosed my analysis beside you and demonstrated to you all the traps. However, I am aware that the best collective experience is what is meant by wisdom. Thus, the primary query for you is which one? The most crucial piece of advice you would give to the proper couple, currently having to decide whether to open. Is this door prohibited? Let's get together. All of our life lessons in the remarks. Someone could be saved by your experience. Family.